Why is the certifier being such a like all he's doing is offering up problems with zero solutions? Now, my client last week, they didn't exactly use those words with me, but it's basically what they were trying to say. And I have to admit, back in the early days of my career, I had many moments where I thought exactly the same thing. So I often sat there in those early days and just went, oh, come on, guys. Why are you just regurgitating legislation and rules at me? Let's speed this process up and let's start talking solutions. What I have come to realize, particularly in more recent years, is that back then, and the industry just as a whole, has a very limited or poor, or what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Let's just stick with poor understanding of what the certifier's role actually is and what their legal obligations actually are. So I thought, hey, why don't I use this week's video to share what I've learnt with you guys over the years. Now, the main thing you need to understand is it may well be the homeowner, the builder, the building design professional, whoever, that's going out there and sourcing the private certifier, also known as surveyor if you're used to working down south. But it may be those guys that are actually going around sourcing who they want to use, engaging them, paying the fees and all of that sort of stuff. But the reality is that the certifier is required to independently assess a proposal or a project on behalf of the state government. So you or the client might be the one finding them, picking them, paying the bills and all of that sort of stuff, but they do not work for you or the client. So what you find here is if the certifier actually gets involved in the design process, so if they're sitting there coming up with the creative solutions, they can't independently assess their own work. So it creates this conflict of interest, this weird and wonderful situation where they're trying to assess their own work. It just does not work. I'm using work a lot, you get what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it's actually, I would argue, in your interest to not have the certifier getting involved, try and offer up those creative solutions and all that sort of stuff. Because you don't want to find yourself in a situation down the track where someone throws some shade on or not shade, what's the word I'm looking for? Some doubt, some questions. You get what I'm trying to say here? Basically, they turn around and question whether the approval is actually valid and whether the certifier has been able to independently assess the application. Because then I'm assuming, I've never had this happen and never actually thought it through to this point, but I'm assuming in that situation, you've got to disengage the current certifier, engage a new certifier, and that new certifier needs to look at a retrospective approval. Now, retrospective approvals, they are not fun. Good luck trying to find any certifier out there these days that touches those things. And if they touch them, they are so expensive and so painful. Like I've heard you have to get concrete x-rays, or you have to do partial demolition work to reveal footings and all that sort of stuff. So the new certifier can actually put eyes on what's being built. Like it is not cheap. It is not fun. You do not want to go there. Ain't nobody got time for that poo show. Watch my language for a second there. So yeah, it's actually in your interest to not push the certifier, not challenge the certifier, I'm really struggling with words here today. You get where I'm trying to go. Push the certifier to try and step over that boundary and to help offer up solutions, because theoretically it actually puts you in an awkward position long term, throws shade or question over the validity of the approval, which just opens up this hornet's nest of mess. Okay, I think that covers off everything I want to talk about today. Hopefully it gives you some insight, understanding, and kind of takes a little bit of heat out of the situation if you're in this position where you're facing a certifier who is just regurgitating rules and legislation at you. Hopefully you now understand there is a reason why they are doing that. Okay, that covers off everything I want to talk about today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.